to just preach that if you got enough audacity to trust him, he had the audacity to do it. But many of you, he can't do it because you don't trust. I could talk about that, but I don't have time. So I wanted to give, I tell you now, watch this. Now, so everybody was standing around, they knew that they only had what he said. So here they are going about their daily routine, and all of a sudden one day, they labeled this day the day of Pentecost. All of them messing around. Sat in one place. Messed around and got on one accord. Yeah. The Bible set out a sound. I'm slowing down. Came from the heaven. And the rushing, I know it's too early for this, and the rushing mighty wind. And then it filled all the house in which they were standing. All right, let me show you. There are three things that I see in this text, and I'm going to bid you farewell. Number one, I see purpose preparation. Secondly, I see positive progression. And then thirdly, I see permanent improvement. I need you to know that when the promise makes its arrival, many of you don't understand that God has a unique but yet creative way of allowing the promise to enter into your life. Many of you feel that the promise is going to be birthed out of a calm, cool, collect, pleasant atmosphere. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? But most of the time, the promise is produced by a chaotic, traumatizing, reckless environment. I can't get no help no way. In other words, what I'm trying to tell you is most of the time your promise does not make a pretty entrance. And many people get confused because your promise ain't wrapped up in a pretty paper bag. Sometimes you have to go through some wild experiences for your promise to actually show its face. I mean, sometimes you're going to have to shed some tears, and then it's the promise. You may have to get sick, and then the promise shows up. Ask me how I know. Jesus went to Calvary. The greatest promise ever produced, but it wasn't a pretty sight. So when they were sitting there, all of a sudden, all alone. All of a sudden, on the tongue. Somebody promised that can't cover. The other person said, no, you need this rain. And the Bible says, I feel good. I'm trying to help some of y'all that all of a sudden your life turned into a circus. Everything was going good. Now your whole life is starting to be rearranged. Indication that the promise is closer. Look at your neighbor and say, the crazier your life gets, the closer. I ain't got no help on Elvis Presley. The closer you get to the promise. But why is it, does it have to be a crazy entrance? Because most of the time, God got to tear up what you already got, so he can make room for what he's about to give you. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, God have to tear some stuff up, because there is no room for your new promise and your old past. So there was, be seated, I'm going to show it to you. Am I doing all right? Well, how about I get it? The Bible said, and when the day of Pentecost was, watch this, fully come. This is the indication that when the promise makes its arrival, it provides permanent improvement. Because for the Bible to say it was fully come means that we have seen some partial installments. But it wasn't permanent. I can't get no help in here. Most of you in here, the promise on your life, you've had some partial installments of the promise. But the trouble is, it just wouldn't last. Let me see what I'm trying to say. Now, in the Old Testament, when they referred to the Holy Ghost, it was more of an exterior install. That's why when they would refer to the Holy Ghost, they would say, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon me. I can't get no help in here. Ezekiel said came upon him and carried him out in the Spirit. It was an exterior. It started on the outside and moved on the inside. But all after the day of Pentecost, it took an inner and permanent position. And now it's not on the outside, but it's dwelling on the inside. Can y'all help me preach? Lean over and tell your neighbor. Say, neighbor, I know you've had some partial installments.